What's up, people? Massive episode for you today. It's the 150th show of the Unlaced podcast. Yes, we've hit a milestone. Yes, I should be crying, but we are still at the crease seeing off the new ball. There is plenty left in the tank. I want to thank you all for your love and support throughout the journey. We've had immense growth, and today I'm joined by a man, the number one draft pick back in 2003, Adam Cooney. You remember him with his frizzy hair. He was an absolute superstar on this show. We go through the fact that he's the only number one draft pick in the history of the game to have won the Brownlow medal. His time at the Western Bulldogs, where he played 220 games with some of the legends of the game. Scott West, who won 7 best and fairest at the Bulldogs. Brad Johnson was one of the best players Adam Cooney had ever played with. We go through his time at the top, where he had 4 or 5 years in the elite midfield bracket of the competition, and his time at Essendon towards the end of his career, where it was around the supplement saga. I'd argue Adam Cooney hosted this show. He had me in stitches the whole time, so I'm sure you're going to love this one, guys. Let's get into it. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, another episode of the Unlaced podcast. As I always say, if you are new here, thank you for turning up. If you've come back again, I absolutely love you. Thank you to everyone for all the support on the Clayton Oliver podcast. That one blew up. We got it on Channel 7 News, which obviously had absolutely nothing to do with me and everything to do with Clary. And also, Braden, I don't know if you realise, this is our 150th episode. I only realised this driving on the way in. So
congratulations.
Yeah, well, and to you too, sir. But this man actually, who we have today, I think he played 250 games, so we're still 100 short of him from our knock. But kudos to everyone that's supported across the journey, for all your support and love over the years. We've definitely grown. It's sort of a week-to-week thing. You got to be consistent. So it's a slow grind, but when you look back, there's been a lot of growth. So thank you, everyone, for all your support. Just quickly, before we introduce the guest, Spotify, if you can give us 5-star ratings. I ask it, I'm cheeky, but so the way we grow, it's the algorithms work for us on Spotify, and everyone's been doing it. So I really appreciate your support. And then hit the sub and the bell on the YouTube if you're watching there, because you'll be notified when we have the episode like today with probably a better bloke than he was footy player, which is hard to really even say, because what he did on the footy field was phenomenal. But Adam Cooney, how are you, mate?
Hey, I'm very good. You finally got me, man. And Clayton Oliver into Adam Cooney. What is this, Ginger Month on the Unlaced podcast or something?
Yeah.
Who's next, Julia Gillard?
Diversify the portfolio.
How would you go with Julia Gillard? It'd be a bit awkward.
Well, did she ever have a blunder of some sort? Didn't she trip? I'd probably ask her about that.
I think
tripped up.
She was pretty straight, wasn't she?
Yeah.
For a ginger. We're a little bit loose, us gingers. Yeah. Oliver into Cooney into Gillard. What a trifecta.
I wonder what that's paying. Oh, scary.
Scary odds. So, yeah, you've been hounding me for a while to come on here.
Yeah.
I've said no many times. And then
your silence is a no.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I know.
You got me. You got the weak point. You realise that there's a weak link.
She knows who she is.
In the Cooney family. And she basically forced me to come on here today. So I'm like it's one of those hostage videos. Like I'm in some sort of cave.
Look, I'm going to be honest. I did feel a bit terrible about my strategy, but I just know how good you'd be on it. But Hayley, I've got to give you a shout out. Yeah. Thank you for getting your man here. I also want to give a shout out to Hayley as well, because you guys had your own Mad Monday together after the season, which I think is one of the greatest things ever about your relationship.
Yeah, well, we've got a pretty good relationship. She's a legend, Hayley. She's like she is my best friend, really. And most people do say that about their wives, but she is actually genuinely like having a mate.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
it's not all rosy. She's got some idiosynclines about her.
Well, she loves animals.
Yeah, no doubt about that. She loves animals, but really, like, she's so much fun to hang out with.
Yeah.
We'll wake up in the morning. What are we doing today? She's like, well, do you want to go to the pub, have a slap? Yeah. So we finished the footy season. My young fella played in the under-16s. They won the flag down at Joey's in Geelong. So they came back to our house on the Saturday night, had a little party and whatnot, and then we sort of rolled through to Sunday, and then not the kids, and then kids went home, went to bed. We went to bed as well.
Yeah.
Woke up Sunday, had a few more, and then you finish your season. What happens?
Yeah,
you go Mad Monday.
Well, this is it.
So she woke up and said, "You know what? I reckon we should probably finish this off at Crown and have Mad Monday at Crown." So we had grand plans too, because we do like we have a few frothies together and. And we love playing the pokies. That's probably our favourite hobby together. So we went to Crown to take them down, right? And we had grand plans. We're like, we'll win a couple of grand here, and then we got the room for the night, and then we'll go to Nobu and have a feed after that.
Oh.
But I think we ended up in the food court. I had like the triple Chinese plate with the rice and the honey chicken, and she's a vegetarian, so she wasn't too pleased when I got the sweet and sour pork, given that we've got 3 pigs at home.
Oh my God. I'm going to try not laugh this whole pod, but that's how I met you and Hayley. I don't know what it was for, but it was for something with Dabble. And we went to that event. What was it? Christmas time? Was it a race day?
It was Cup Day. It was
Melbourne Cup.
They had the big purple horse.
Yeah, the purple horse. And
I think Hayley was riding it.
Yeah,
sitting on the back of the purple horse.
Oh, mate, we had a great day, and but I think drinking together was like I caught the chemistry of your relationship. It was just it was unreal.
No, she's a good girl. But you attacked my weakest point, and she basically forced me to come on here today. So it's like as I mentioned, the hostage video. But I see that Jake he's feeding me well.
I don't know if Jax will be watching, but shout out Jax. We follow each other on Instagram. We're best mates. Yeah. Nice. He's going to bypass you soon once he's in the AFL. We're going to be all over him.
But he thinks he is.
Yeah, but you're pretty humble. You're pretty humble on him in regards to how he goes. But I've heard he goes pretty well. So
he's okay. He's okay. Like he wants to play AFL, and he's getting to an age now where it's going to. If he works his ass off for the next couple of years, who knows what will happen. But he's got some talent. He missed the whole season last year.
Did he?
He dislocated his shoulder. I was in Africa at the time. He dislocated his shoulder the night before round 1, mucking around on a bench press with his mate. Right, so which is not ideal. Like, what? I'm like, why the fuck are you doing bench press the night before round 1 anyway? You peanut. And then he's like, oh no, his technique was wrong. So they put 60 kilos on the bar, which is a lot. Which is basically his max.
That's a lot.
And he said, look, this is how you're supposed to do it, and this is what you're doing. And then he threw his arm back, and then it just came out.
Oh no!
It popped straight back in, but he did a pretty good job of it. So he missed the whole season of footy, and then came back this year, and he played all right. He's got a lot of work to do if he wants to play AFL, but he's got a bit of speed, he's got a bit of agility. So just ask him.
Ask him. I like
He's got a bit of confidence.
Love that.
Oh my God! But
I wonder where he gets that from.
Let me tell you, if he wants to play AFL, he got a lot more work to do. Son, if you do listen to this podcast, you better get off your ass. Stop playing PlayStation and go to the gym.
I love that. Well, your life's changed a little bit, but you did just mention Africa, which I want to talk about, just that experience, because you've made like lifelong friends out of that. And I actually saw some clips as we were coming into this. I was just watching a bit of the stuff, and I don't know when you went out. You went out like 9th or 8th or something?
I was equal 5th.
Equal 5th. Oh, so 9th it must have been the 9th person out, so you're 5th.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, okay.
So, Africa was wild. So obviously I'm a celebrity, get me out of here.
Yeah.
And they approached me to do it. I said, my manager called me. I said, not a chance am I doing that. Why would I want to go and sit in a jungle in Africa with a bunch of D-grade celebrities? And most of them are probably going to be knobs.
Yeah,
Why the hell would I want to go and do that? So I said no straight away. And I said to Hales, guess who just called me? Manager wants me to go, and I'm a celebrity. She's like, you're going? I said, no, I'm not going.
See the power of Hayley, people.
Rank again on me and forced me to Africa to eat a zebra's dick.
Did you? So did you lose a lot of weight on that as well?
Yeah. It was crazy. It was a crazy experience, and it was so fun. And the people, I think I got lucky on that year because the people that were on there, very, very, a few of them were really similar to me, like pretty laid back, not really that ego driven. They were just really down to earth people, and I still catch up. Like Pete Hellier, he's such a great guy. Woody, who does, I think he's on Kiss. He does the Arvos.
Yep.
On Kiss, Harry Garside as well. So these guys, and even some of the girls that were on there.
Geordie Shaw as well.
Nathan, my man Nathan Henry, who was my boyfriend in the jungle for sort of 6 weeks. Like he would call me daddy every now and then.
That's got to be crossing the line, doesn't it?
He still calls me daddy. Like it was my birthday the other day. He messaged me, "Happy birthday, daddy." I'm like, thanks, big boy.
Jesus.
Yeah, he's a weapon. He's such a good guy. But we had such a good crew. But I lost 11 kilos in 28 days.
Jesus.
Yeah, I needed to.
Yeah.
Like I was 100 I weighed in 102 before I went in there. Played footy at 85.
Whoa.
And then when I got out, I was like low 90s, and because you get 800 calories a day.
Okay, right.
But so it's basically you get
Are you starving?
It's some oats and some like water, and then you get rice and beans for lunch, and then depending on how well you do in a challenge in the afternoon, that's how much dinner you get.
Right.
And I saved my breakfast and put it in my dinner because I just wanted to have one big feed for the day. So I wouldn't eat until I would eat some rice maybe at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon and then try and load up for dinner. So I lost a bit of weight doing that, but then I got told off because they said that I was starving myself. And I was like, well, give me some fucking food then.
You're using all the portions.
Give me some Tim Tams. But there's no like behind the scenes stuff. I know Warney, when he was on there, like he had a special dart shed where he could just go back and chew them down. But we got nothing, no extra food or anything like that. So the hardest thing about it was how boring it was.
Oh, no.
Because you sit all day and they get you up as soon as the sun comes up because they want you to start making content at like 6 a.m.
Mate, that's ridiculous. What was probably the biggest learning curve or you sort of said the best thing about it was probably the people, but the thing that you maybe was the biggest challenge for you throughout that process?
Well, the biggest challenge was dealing with not knowing what time it was.
Oh, so, really?
And you sort of try and guess, and there's a canopy over the top. But you are in the middle of the jungle, in the African jungle. Yeah. So there's all sorts of noises at night and all sorts of creatures around. Like I nearly stepped on a snake when I was walking to the waterfall.
No, you did not.
I was like half a metre away from it. And they kill you in minutes. The African, some of the African
fucking
states.
Safety measures that.
Yeah, but they can't control where snakes are.
Yeah, true.
Can they? They can control like some of the other animals over there that kill you, but they can't control snakes. So you are in the wild, but there's sort of a canopy over you, so you don't get too wet. But so you can't see the sun.
Oh, no.
So you've got really no idea what time it is. So if you're like starving and you think, it's nearly dinner time, it could be 10 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my God.
And you actually have no idea. And then dealing with the boredom, if you don't get picked for a task that day, the days are long.
Yeah.
And you just sit and, you get sick of people as you do, and there's a little bit of tension sometimes in the air there, but we had a pretty good crew.
Yeah, you'd be great. You'd be great for the other guests as well because you're a bit of a bantertron, I like to say.
Yeah, and I don't really get too wound up about things.
You would have kept it. You would have caught the atmosphere and brought it down, I reckon.
I hope so. And Dicko was good at that too.
Was he? Yeah.
He's the music mogul from back in the day.
Australian Idol.
Yeah. Well, he told the Paulini story a few times, which I think he told her to shed some pounds or choose a more appropriate dress. Like, imagine if he said that now.
Jesus Christ.
I know, he'd be done.
Yeah.
Well, he's done now anyway. He doesn't have. We had a reunion up at the Langham in the Gold Coast, and everyone was invited. And the Langham said, "Look, we'll give you free accommodation. All you got to do is just post it on your socials." They didn't invite Dicko because he doesn't have Instagram.
He missed out.
So Dicko had to pay, like they said, he's got to pay full clip for his room because he couldn't put anything on Instagram. So he just didn't come.
Stiff. Oh, that's great, man, because I don't know with your way of life now. I would assume because you're like the term celebrity you would hate.
Yeah.
Knowing you, and then also like being front end of media, which you're obviously natural at. I always thought, like, just knowing your personality, you probably would hate as well, but like you're quite prominent in that space at the moment.
I wouldn't say prominent.
You're on 7. You're on 7 at the
the Armchair Experts.
The Armchair Experts.
Yeah, that's
a great
like,
show.
What's that? It's like 1 o'clock in the morning, just before the ab swing commercials come on. That's so it's not like I'm not prime time, and I work for SEN, do a game a week, and then some fill-in stuff. So I could probably do more, but I'm in a nice little spot there, a nice little sweet spot where I work Friday night. I coach footy down in Geelong, and then I might do a game on SEN on a Saturday afternoon, and then Monday to Friday is just doing whatever I want, which is pretty good.
Yeah, because your weekends are your week. That's why if your Saturday nights are Monday or Tuesday, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday sometimes.
Yeah.
But the only problem is it's hard to find people to hang out with.
Yeah.
Because everyone is obviously Sunday, they're winding down, getting ready to go to work, and then I'm winding up, getting ready to have a few beers and enjoy myself. But that's why, like, me and Hayley are so close. We're close because we get along well with each other. But like we're happy to spend time with each other. I got a good crew actually. I moved to Geelong a few years ago. I got a really nice crew down there that a couple of them are doing pretty well. One of them's got his own business and he's just handed it over to some of his mates. So he's always like ready to go.
That's unbelievable.
Which is dangerous sometimes.
That's awfully dangerous.
Yeah, but he's a good dude and we hang out a fair bit down there.
Oh, well. Mate, the other thing I wanted to speak to you about was coaching. I don't know why, and it's presumptuous, but I always thought maybe you'd just veer off from footy, maybe because of all the pressure and the media that you cop throughout your career with your success and obviously being such a number one draft pick in a sense. But how's that been? Do you find that you've got a real strong connection to the game. What about that side do you like?
I'd never thought I'd be a coach. Yeah. I thought I'd finish footy because I was so sick of it by the end of my playing days and everything that went wrong in my career and injuries and stuff. It sort of sucked the life out of me a little bit in terms of my love for footy, and that was pretty early on as well. So I never thought I'd get into coaching. I sort of fell into it a little bit. I was going to co-coach my young fellas team last year in the under-16s because I had some media commitments on the weekend or whatever. So we're going to share the duties, and then the other guy left before the season, so it was sort of thrown upon me to coach that team. And then, as I mentioned, Jack's got injured, so I coached his team for the whole year, and he didn't even play a game.
Oh my God.
Which wasn't ideal. And then Geelong College in the APS just approached me at the end of last year and said, listen, come and have a meeting with us. It just outlined everything, and I thought, well, it's a pretty reasonable opportunity to coach in the APS. It's a pretty good competition.
Life or death at that age, isn't it?
Yeah, and like 5 or 6 of the top 10 draft picks this year are going to come out of the APS. So you come up against some pretty handy players. But I really enjoyed the year. It was a really good, respectful bunch of kids. Which you wouldn't probably think, a little private school, 17-year-old, 18-year-old private school boys, but they were awesome. I like to think of Geelong College as the blue collar, working class of private school from the APS. But we won a few games. We did all right. We'd like to have won a few more, but we were competitive, and I actually had a pretty good time. So I'll coach them again this year. I'm not sure how far I'd want to take my coaching. Yeah, like if you get to an AFL level and you're an assistant coach. Like you're working 7 days a week. Yeah. You have to rewatch the game. It takes you 4 or 5 hours. You got to clip up edits. You got to talk to individuals. It basically takes your whole life away. Yeah. So I'm not sure if I'm ready to step into AFL.
No, mate. I feel like you got a real sweet spot for enjoyment of life and getting actually some day-to-day stuff done.
Like I could probably earn a lot more money, but then you don't get that enjoyment out of your life. Yeah, you got to balance things up. That's a good point. You tip over the edge, and that's no good for anyone.
That's a good point. I've got a random segue because I forgot to bring it up. We did mention animals, but the Cooney farm, I call it, as such, it's practically a zoo.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
That's just the kids and Haley. Yes. It is crazy. It is crazy down there. So
it's being added to as we we're speaking probably as well. Like it's always growing.
Every time I leave the house, he brings home another animal. Yeah. And then I've got to sneakily leave the gate open so we lose it. And then
Haley's losing that another one.
I did that a couple of times. We lost a couple of quails. Those little they're pathetic excuse for an animal. Like a miniature bloody
bird.
Chick.
A chicken,
yeah. You don't get much meat off them. Not that I'm allowed to eat any of them anyway. But I left the gate open a couple of times, and then the dogs just come strolling in. Look what I've found with the quails in the mouth. So I've got in a bit of strife for that. But we've got at the moment. So we moved from Newport down to Geelong because I've always wanted just a couple of acres. Yeah, just a little bit more room. I just wanted some chickens to have some fresh eggs every morning. Yeah, and a little bit more space down there. But we've got 3 pigs. We've got 4 goats now. We've got 7 or 8 chickens. We've got 5 guinea pigs, 3 dogs, a cat with 2 legs.
2? One at front, one
ducks.
at back?
Yeah, one at the front, one at the back.
Okay, that obviously otherwise it wouldn't work.
Yeah, otherwise it just walk like a human. Yeah. We're up to about 25 animals at the moment. And I said that I was going to divorce her after, I think, 15. So there's a theme here. Someone really rules the roost.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a crazy little thing that goes on because, a lot of the stories that I see from your family is absolute chaos and it's like the backyard. Yeah. Just filled with animals.
And just even trying to feed them as well. Yeah. Like it's not cheap.
God.
And if we had to actually buy food to feed the 3 pigs, I'd be out of business. Like I'd be working 7 days a week to try and feed them. Because one of... our biggest pig would be 200 kegs plus. And we got her when she was 2 days old. And I was thinking, that's a pretty cute little thing. We had to bottle feed it and everything. It was like having a newborn. Slept in our ensuite for the first few weeks.
You're kidding.
And then it sort of graduated to a cage next to our bed. So she had, and it's an orange pig. Yeah. So Hal's had 2 red pigs in the bed for a little while there.
Oh, God, and he's on fire today.
It just got to a stage where the pig got too big and she would start jumping up onto the kitchen bench and trying to get into the cupboards and steal food. Now she's about 200 odd kegs. So we have to actually get free food from a local community that make pumpkin and all that like pumpkin soup in bulk, and we just get bins full of it and to feed the pigs.
Jesus Christ! People probably thinking at home, why has Jake got Adam Cooney on and talking about pigs?
Talking about pigs.
But this is why I love it, because this is the funny. I think it's the most random, like some of the random facts that come with Coons and his family. Is just what makes it so great. But you did a lot of work on the AFL season this year, just to kind of touch on it, because probably a good time to sort of summarise it. But I only realised the other day. I mean, I probably knew it in the city, but Brisbane were 1-7.
Yeah.
At some point. So, I mean, you're probably the viewpoint of the year with your expertise. I mean, how did you sort of see the season?
Oh, it was a massive surprise. Like, we do a segment on the Armchair Experts where it's a big premiership board, and once you rip a team off, you can't put them back on.
Oh, no. When did you rip them off?
And we actually, it's a bit, late night TV, so we actually pulled them off.
Yeah.
So I pulled off Brisbane at about round 12, I think, or around 13, and they came back to bite me in the arse. So I thought it was a good season because anyone could have won it. It was one of those seasons where it was just really open.
Yeah.
And Sydney stumbled a little bit late towards the back end of the year. Like, got done by over 100 points to Port Adelaide, and then Port making the top 4. I think was a pretty good effort. Like, anyone could have won it. Missed opportunity for the Dogs, I reckon.
Yeah, I agree. I selected them with the top 8
because they got their game going towards the back end of the year, and slid into finals. They've won it from outside the top 4 before. They've made 2 grand finals under Bevo, and I just thought he got the magic formula right again. But then they shit themselves in the first final. Hawks just went bang.
I thought Hawthorn was the only because they had that feeling and aura about them at the time, where they're like, oh. I knew they wouldn't win at Hawthorn, but I knew they could beat someone big.
Yeah, and it was the perfect year for someone to win it outside the top 4. And I've never really been a big believer in Sydney over the last few years. I don't know, something about them just doesn't quite add up.
Yeah.
And it's another grand final pounding. So, I was right once again.
Yeah. Well, mate, it was pretty big. What about Joe Danaher? I mean, his retirement just kind of came out today, but he touched obviously your old club, Essendon, which we'll talk about today, but him as a footy player, he seems like a pretty unique bloke. Like no TV,
lives near Byron Bay.
Yeah, lives near Byron Bay. Doesn't live in the same state.
Yeah.
Like
drives an hour and 40.
Coffee machine in the back of his car, stuff like that.
Well, you probably need one if you're driving like 4 hours a day.
Do you probably
stop off for a latte? No, I'm not a big coffee drinker, but Joey's a unique character. I played with Joe at Essendon.
I was going to say, you would have crossed over, right?
Yeah, and he was one of my best mates there. Like, I just got along so well with him because he's very similar to me, like really laid back, doesn't get wound up with, too many other things. Will question why you're doing something if it's not related to actually playing well on the weekend.
Love that.
Like, people used to get me to do the weirdest shit when I was training. I'm like, how is this going to make me better? Yeah. And if it's not going to make me better on the field, then I'm not doing it. And Joey's a bit sort of similar to that. I think he felt the pressure and expectation of being a Danaher at Essendon.
I was going to say.
As well, living in Melbourne. So he didn't really enjoy his footy there, and he was injured. Obviously, a fair bit of stuff went down when I was at the Bombers as well. But I'm so glad. And it's typical Joe, isn't it? Like, winning a flag, walking away from $1 million next year.
Damn.
And probably, they wanted to extend his contract.
Yeah.
So he probably had at least 3 years on $1 million. He'd be 30.
30. So
I reckon.
Way played the grand final. He's got a lot left in the tank too, doesn't he?
So he must have himself set up financially because there's not a lot of people that walk away from the game and walk away from $1 million.
Yeah.
Like, even if you hated footy, you just rock up and kick the Sharon around and earn your $1 and then go home, wouldn't you? Yeah, but that's not Joe.
Surely he'd bought a few brownie points with Chris Fagan for next year. Like, maybe I'll miss Friday or Thursday.
Yeah, that's what, mate. Come back in February. Yeah. I don't want to see you until a month before round 1. And even if you only play 15 games, just get yourself ready for finals and go back to back and earn your. Well, I don't know what it's like, what it is after tax, but it'd have to be like 90 grand a month, wouldn't it?
Yes. Wow. Yeah, it would be. That's which is nice out where he's living.
Pays your bills. Yeah. 80 grand a month.
Yeah. What a guy.
Not too bad, is it?
What a guy. What a career. Well, we're going to get into Adzy's career because I think, mate, you don't like this, but you were supremely talented, particularly when you came in. The raps on you were quite huge. I was at your first game ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, your first game ever. I was there. Obviously, how could I forget with your hairstyle? But I was actually there. I can't remember who it was against.
The Eagles.
Eagles, was it? Yeah.
Yeah. Round 1.
Round 1, yeah. So, and I was interested to hear you talk about when I was doing some research on the Jungle, which I'm going to go through your time at the Bulldogs and Essendon, because you've told me some pretty interesting things about some of the players you played with and who you thought was the best player, which I want to sort of bring out in today. But you always have this kind of view, and it may be probably harsh on yourself, but you always felt like there was a bit more you could have got out of it. And I know you had injuries and stuff like that, but I guess why do you have that viewpoint on your career?
Well, because I wasted the first 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And footy was different back then, right? So
true.
So when I got drafted, I was a bit overweight. I was probably 90 kilos, needed to lose maybe 5 kilos. You get to a footy club, and when you're 18, back in those days, you hung around with a couple of guys who were a little bit more senior than me, but they were only 3 or 4 years older, and sort of regulars in the team. So we would party like rock stars. And when you come in, like you play your game or even get through pre-season training, and then you'd go out. Yeah. And you might go out on if you had the Thursday off. Back in those days, you'd go out on the Wednesday night as well, and you'd have a few drinks.
Yeah.
So you'd be Wednesday and then Saturday and then trying to recover Sunday and then training on a Monday, and I just wasn't getting anywhere. But it was a bit different back then. It was still professional, but it was early 2000s. Mobile phones weren't really around. So those were the days where like players could get away with a little bit more in terms of going out and enjoying themselves. But yeah, I just didn't get myself fit enough and lean enough to be able to perform in the first few years of my career. So, I mean, I played some okay footy in the first 3 or 4 years.
Your statistics were pretty, like goals and games and all of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was playing a bit more as a forward, sort of pinch hitting in the mid, but I wasn't fit enough to play as a midfielder, and finally got it together after 4 years.
Yeah.
But then after that, I had some injuries and was never able to sort of get back to that level. So I guess I look back on it as a bit of a wasted career in some ways, because the first few years and we didn't play well as a team, and then I got it together and then had one really good year, and then I injured my knee in the first final in 2008. So I split my kneecap in the first final, and then I played the next few games with a local, like just jabbed it up, and then went to the end of the season after we lost the prelim final. In 2008.
Who was that to? Was that St Kilda?
08, it was Geelong, I reckon. 09 was the Saints.
Okay, yeah, you played. I remember your prelim was against the Saints.
And I just couldn't run in the final, so I had an awesome year in 2008. Hurt my knee, and then didn't play well in the final series. Obviously won the Brownlow after that, and then got back, and it just didn't feel right. So like wasted a few years, hurt my knee, and then I really couldn't really train much after that.
Yeah.
So I had one good year to show what I could do, and then the rest of it was,
I'd argue, and I've got this in there, we'll kind of go wherever it goes, but I argue that you had 4 years at the top, like easily. I've looked at all your stats. I'd argue statistically the years after your Brownlow might have even been better.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, which is great. And for those, this is one of the greatest things ever, is Adam Cooney is the only number 1 draft pick to be a Brownlow medalist in the history of the game, which is actually that's got to be ridiculous, doesn't it? Though, as good as that is for you, like what the fuck?
Yeah, I know. There's been some number 1 picks that have let us down, really, over the years, like Rewalt and Goddard and some of these blokes. Luke Hodge,
like Swanee says, pick 58 has 3 Brownlow medalists.
Statistically, you're more likely to win the Brownlow. Pick 58 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it is. Yeah, it's incredible that another number 1 pick hasn't got one, but Harley Reid, I think, should be the next one. But they're reasonably hard to win, I think.
Yeah, well, and your interest, 24 votes back then was a lot.
Yeah, I would have come 45th in the Brownlow this year. I would not have been in the top 30.
20 votes. Yeah,
Paddy Cripps had that eclipsed by around 15 or something like that. Yeah, it was outrageous. So it was a low count.
Yeah, what was it really? Was it who was just behind you in that count?
Everyone.
That's a great answer. That's a great answer. I deserve that.
Everyone in the league was behind me. That's why I won, man.
Fuck me. Oh, he's way too quick for me today.
Simon Black had a pretty good year. A guy called Gary Ablett Junior.
Is that when he started booming?
Nah, he was already booming before that. Yeah, well before that. Matthew Richardson, not sure if you've heard of him.
Yeah. Didn't Richo, is that the count Richo everyone was getting up because Richo thought he was going to win?
So disrespectful towards me as well.
Correct.
Every time Richo would get a vote, the crowd would erupt. And every time I got one, they would boo. So, but as I've said a few times, I won it in the end. So, sucked in everyone in the crowd. But it was crazy. Like, I obviously wasn't expecting to win the Brownlow.
Yeah.
I was actually the as you mentioned, I had a pretty good year. For the first 15 or 16 rounds, I was the favourite after about round 15, I reckon, and then dropped away a little bit. So I thought I'd poll pretty well. Obviously didn't have a speech prepared or anything like that. But then I thought I'd drop away towards the back end of the year, and I did, but no one else got votes. Like Simon Black didn't poll for a few weeks, Gary Ablett didn't poll for 3 or 4, and then Richo got maybe a couple of 1s when he should have got 3s. So I was sort of around the mark, and then I got 3, ironically, against Essendon in round 20 or round 21, and then just had to hold on from there.
Wow.
So it was pretty amazing how it worked out.
Had you had a few drinks in you at this point then, if you weren't anticipating a speech? Were you all right when you got up there?
No.
Yeah, you were in some form.
Well, as Swanee, you've heard, and Swanee's got some good one-liners.
Nice.
And he said the hardest thing about when you end a season, the hardest thing about football is not going through the pre-season grind. It's actually getting to Mad Monday if you get knocked out in a prelim final on a Friday.
Yeah,
which is what happened to us.
That did 100,000 views on socials.
In 2008, a similar thing. We were at the pub all weekend, and then as is tradition, you go to Mad Monday. You've got to have your first beer before 10 o'clock in the morning. And you got to dress up. So on Brownlow Day, I was dressed up all day as a giant sperm. And I had my little tail that was sort of flicking out the back, and guys were doing all sorts of things to me.
Imagine.
So I went from being dressed as a giant sperm throughout the day, throwing a tux on when I was blind.
Oh, so oh my God.
Yeah, and then going through the red carpet.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but the word spread pretty quickly down the line that not to interview me. Right. So there's actually, you probably won't find any footage of me being interviewed as one of the favourites going down the red carpet, because I had one and then they said cut him off.
Oh my God.
And then they just dragged me back up the stairs of the Palladium and put me under a table for a little power nap.
So did you end up having like a slowdown period then towards the end, anticipating the win, or you just kept going? No. Right, fair enough.
I never thought I was going to win, and I was enjoying getting votes.
Yeah, it would have been awesome.
And you have Skull every time you get a few votes, or a 3, you got to put a full beer down. Back in the days where you could actually enjoy yourself at the Brownlow before Fev ruined it for everyone, which I had a little hand in myself actually.
Did you?
Yeah.
Why? You got to tell us.
Oh well. So he was, all the pressure point stuff, and he did. It was sort of out in the foyer before the after party starts at the end of the Brownlow, and everyone's had a good time. But Fev obviously taken it to a new level, and he was doing the pressure points and kissing people, and he actually got blamed for throwing a full Crownie, like bottle, across the room, and it nailed someone. But if you have a look at the vision, I've come through, knocked it out of his hand, and it's gone flying across the room, and then nailed someone over there. And I think Fev was like, they might be up on assault charges for throwing Crownies around.
Oh my God.
It was actually me that knocked it out of his hand. And then we were wrestling, and we went through a glass table at the after party and smashed drinks everywhere. And then I sort of just skunked off to the side after it. And then Fev copped all the heat for that as well.
Oh my God, there you go. That's the truth. That's groundbreaking. Does many people know that?
Not a lot.
Yeah, not a lot.
When this podcast goes number 1, which I know you're searching.
Yeah, well, you're number 1 right now, which is funny because you didn't even know.
On Trade Radio?
Yeah, Trade Radio is number 1.
Trade Radio goes gangbusters. So
what is it about, what's changed in the trade front, by the way, for it to go gangbusters? Because even for me, like, it's so fun to watch and listen to, like the art of the possible.
People are more obsessed with who they can get into their club sometimes than actually watching the games.
Yeah.
Especially when there's no hope for your club. Like you might be down the bottom 4, halfway through the year and your team's not playing well. All you can really look forward to is how can our club get better and who can we bring in?
Yeah.
So, and there's so many debates about, what's this person worth? And I think that the value of it is, and the enjoyment people get out of it is actually, pitting one player up against another. What can we get for him? Can we get some more draft picks in? How can we build? And a lot of people like to sit at home and build the list of an AFL team themselves. Like Nuffy's out there. I can't be bothered doing all that sort of stuff. But I come up with, all sorts of fanciful trades that are never going to happen and just get bullied and abused on social media and like death threats for 2 weeks. Like, how dare you trade Harry Mackay to the Brisbane Lions? It's like, just calm down there.
It's superficial.
Just relax. It's never going to actually happen. So people get pretty passionate about it. But I'm surprised that it's become a juggernaut over the last few years. And I've been involved now at Trade Radio, I think it's my 6th year. And it's just the numbers they do are extraordinary because people are just obsessed with 1, AFL, but 2, how can we make my team better?
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Well, just probably a good person to ask, given that, is I'm a Saints man.
Man.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not going to put Western Bulldogs in our category because you guys have actually won some stuff.
Yeah.
But
we got twice the amount of flags as you.
Yeah. But you guys have broken your drought and it looked like you have such a good team. St Kilda, I don't know where we're at, but I thought the president's or Andrew Bassett's comments were interesting. And because you might have a father-son, who knows? Fingers crossed Jaxie gets everything going. But just on that, I mean, do you think there is an imbalance with like the drafts at the moment, or do you have a different view to maybe what came out there?
Well, if you think about it, like it's supposed to be cyclical, right? So every team is supposed to have their chance at a flag, and except for Gold Coast and Essendon in the last 20 years, everyone's had a crack at it.
Yeah.
So you got to argue. You could argue that it's working. Like you look at Richmond now. They've had their period of success where they smashed it, and now they're at the bottom.
Yeah.
And now they've got to work their way through. West Coast Eagles, they play in 15, they win one in 18, and now they hit the bottom. Now they've got to go back again. They get Harley Reid. So I think it's working in a way. Like GWS have come in, they got a few concessions, but they've got to a grand final and prelim final. So like every team has had their crack at being successful. So that's a tick for that. What I will say about St Kilda is they could have had. Yeah. Their midfield could have been danger. Yeah. Christian Petrarca and Marcus Bontempelli.
Yeah.
And and Aaron Norton they could have had. And they passed on all those guys to get, and I won't mention the players that they got because of that, but that's what they could have had. So they have missed out. And every team misses. Like you have hits and misses in the draft or whatever. But
having 3 or 4 misses is a challenge. Yeah.
Particularly when you've missed out on like legends of the game, but every team misses, but and you've just unfortunately not a lot of father sons have come through over the last few years.
Yeah, we've had a lot of daughters.
Yeah. And then the AFLW team should be flying in 10 years' time.
Yeah, correct.
They should win.
We should literally have a Burke, a Harvey, a Stuart,
they should win
a Lowe.
10 flags in a row. Yeah, just keep having girls. I don't know, the ice bar's too cold down there? You're freezing out the boys.
I think Nick Rewalt's our only hope. I think he's
freezing out the male sperms down there.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. So, but it's like every club. Bevo said something at the Western Bulldogs Best and Fairest the other night, saying basically the complete opposite. Like, agreed. There are some inequalities, but we're not going to say anything. We're not going to complain. We're just going to get on with it. They've got Jamara Ugle-Hagan as number 1 pick for their academy. They got Sam Darcy as a father-son. They got Liver as a father-son. So maybe just keep that one on the down low. Yeah. You guys are having actual sons, which is important. Just the number 1 draft pick. We had Jamara on a few weeks back, and probably people who tune into this regularly when I ask the question all the time. But did you know, like the year before coming in, that you were always going to go number 1 or that high, or was it like, what was the sort of build up towards that? Well, I was lucky. So they have the under 16 national champs and the under 18. So I played 4 years of that. So I played bottom age 16s, top age 16s, bottom age 18s, and I made all Australian all 4 of those years.
Jesus.
So I was thought, like I knew I was going to get drafted.
How many wheat bix were you having back then, mate?
I wasn't eating wheat bix, man. Trust me. Like I was horrible. Like diet was horrible. Professionalism was horrible. I just love playing footy.
Still that good though.
I just like playing footy.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the under 8, so they used to play 3 games in a week back in the day. So you play under 18 champs in a week, and then that was it. You go back to your club. And I was playing senior footy at West Adelaide at that stage. Yes. And I just finished off 2 weeks later playing for West Adelaide. Scotty Clayton called me and he said, we're just going to come over to Adelaide. We just want to have a meeting with you with the coach. It was Peter Rode at that stage. And this was like July. So 3 or 4 months before the draft. And the meeting was pretty quick. They probably could have been a phone call, to be honest with you. And he sat down, had a feed and said, look, we're going to finish bottom. We're going to get a priority pick. We're going to take you as the number 1 pick in July. So, which was the worst thing that they could have done at that stage. Because then, like 17, immature, I'm thinking, well, I've made it.
So you were still that you were taken as a 17-year-old?
Just turned 18.
Oh, you just turned 18,
yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So I was thinking at that stage, well, I've made it. I'm a superstar. How good's this? And I basically went around to every pub and nightclub in Adelaide. Like, well, give me my free drink cards. I'm on the back page of the paper with like a shark tooth necklace.
Yeah,
and
that's right. The
more
hair.
Chins than I've got now, and like the hair just wild.
Fuck.
Just an idiot. I was just an idiot.
Yeah,
like so immature. Got ahead of myself.
But bloody good at footy.
Way too overconfident.
Bloody good at footy though.
Back then, I could play football. Yeah.
Hey guys, just a quick pause in this episode to compliment our partners of the show. You guys know that I've been sponsored and supported by Dabble, the gambling agency, for a while now. This place has a special place in my heart because it is like the social network of gambling. You can follow superstars of the game, copy their bets. You might not know so much about a certain sport, but you can copy someone who does and increase your chances of winning some money. Obviously, if you're not a gambler, please only bet what you can and are willing to lose. Please dabble safely, gamble responsibly, as we always say. Just so you guys know, this year I've been taking over the streaming space at Dabble every Wednesday night from 7 to 8 p.m. Jake's Take is live. It is the wild, wild west of streaming. There's not too many sporting agencies or gambling agencies out there doing what we do. We put on a few bets throughout the show. We get some guests on. We have a lot of fun. It's all within the Dabble app. If you guys want to jump on board, the link is in the bio. Hey guys, this is a quick pause in this episode because a superstar is coming to town. I don't know if you've heard of a guy called Carmelo Anthony, potentially one of the greatest scorers of all time in NBA history. He is going to be going to one of the great cafes and institutions in Melbourne, Vanilla in Oakley. You guys have the opportunity to go buy a table, ruffle up some money with your friends, and go and have a night with Carmelo Anthony. There will be a banquet feed. There will be signed shirts, jerseys, basketballs, whatever it may be, and you'll get the intricacy of talking to a living legend of the NBA, Carmelo Anthony. This is going to be happening. The link is going to be down in the bio, so get there, get your tables. They are going fast. It is going to be one of the all-time great events, and Carmelo Anthony is going to be in Oakley. How strange is that? This is going to be absolutely awesome. I'm going to be there. It'll be a massive night, so get your tickets now, and let's get back into the episode. The first year, like I'm just having that pressure as a number one draft pick, and I want to go through some of the players you play with at the Bulldogs because they're probably some unsung heroes in regards to, like, people don't speak about them as much now as probably they deserve. Maybe the Bulldogs fans do, but AFL wide. But that first year, like, was that a bit of baptism of fire? Because as you said, like, Dane Swan's the same. His first 3 or 4 years, he'd argue like he was almost out of the system. So it was something in that generation of, like, everyone kind of got in their groove a little bit later.
Yeah. Well, again, like, with Swanee, before the draft, I came over to Melbourne for Cup Day. Yeah. And Swanee was on an AFL list, but he was pretty loose. He wasn't really getting regular games, and he spoke about this publicly. Like, the moment that turned his career around was when he got arrested on those charges. I was actually there
at the was it Barclay?
I can't remember when it was. So I went out with those boys and was introduced to Swanee, and he sort of took me under my wing for the night. And that was, again, like, I didn't need to see those things that AFL players were doing because I was like, well, this is a life that we lead. And then I saw, like, Swanee and all his mates had done. I was like, whoa, this is outrageous. So again, like, it was a baptism of fire in terms of that. But when I got to Melbourne, all I wanted to do was go home because I was really close. I had a really close group of mates who we'd gone through a fair bit at 16, 17. And we were just having so much fun in Adelaide that I didn't want to leave. Yeah. And so I got over to Melbourne. And this sucks. Like, all I do is train every day. I don't have any friends. I just want to go home. So I was pretty homesick for the first few months. But I did some training, and I wasn't the fittest or the best player at the Bulldogs by any stretch at that stage. But I got a game. Round one. Yeah. Round one. And then once I sort of got into the groove of playing, I felt a little bit more comfortable being in Melbourne, but we only won 2 or 3 games in my first year, and the coach got sacked.
Who was that?
Peter Rode.
Peter Rode. Oh, yeah, that's right.
So he got sacked, but he was the one who kickstarted my career, and I thank him to this day because he played me every week. Yeah. I played 19 games in my first year. I probably deserved 3 of them. Damn. So he just kept playing me every week after, because he knew that the more games he'd get into me and some of these younger guys, the better we would be quicker. Probably might have cost him his job. He didn't even put two together. He's probably a school teacher now. But he just played me every week. So I thank him for that. He probably fell on his sword, but once I felt a bit more comfortable, getting regular games, and finally played a couple of good games towards the back end of my first year, and then sort of started to trend upwards a little bit from there.
Yeah, it's funny your comment just about Swanee there of taking you under your wing, but you're both Brownlow medalists. One's at a Hall of Fame with people that I'd argue were getting blown over, like when they were making it. So I was like, mate, how are you in the Hall of Fame at 40 with people like either not alive or 80 getting their sort of name pulled out?
Swanee's not in Collingwood's Hall of Fame yet either.
Isn't he? No. That's interesting.
Maybe they take in off-field behaviour as well. Yeah. I think you'll be in there pretty soon.
One of the things you told me when we had a double stream actually was Brad Johnson. Yeah. Was maybe the best player you ever played with.
Oh, yeah, he was just amazing. Considering his size, like he was undersized. He was our key forward for many years. And he was undersized, but he was just so strong and so powerful that he could just beat anyone. And he was pretty diligent and professional about the way he went about it as well. Like he was one of the guys where you walk into the footy club and you look at him and go, shit, he works hard. Like he does everything he can to be the best player he can be. And I think he had the record, I think, for our bench press at one stage. It was like 160.
How tall was he? Was he
170?
Maybe. So he's under 6 foot.
Yeah.
Wow.
But he just was so strong and so powerful. And for his size and what he was able to do, like the amount of goals that he kicked in a few years there for us, and he was probably a pretty handy mid as well. He's probably an All-Australian midfielder. I'm not sure how many times he was actually All-Australian, but I guess it'd be a handful. And a couple of them could have been. He could have been one of the great mids as well.
Right, can you check that? Let's see how many All-Australians Brad Johnson was. Because, his name, I feel like, obviously he's in the media. I think he does some goal-kicking work with teams and players. But
well, he stole Rowan Smith, his best mate's job at the Western Bulldogs. Which could be a little bit frosty.
Oh, you played with them both, didn't you?
Yeah, they gave Smitty the arse and then they got Jono in.
Mate,
it's like we used to joke that they'd had a tunnel like dug between each other's houses. So that's how close they were. Those two.
They've got him as a 6-time All-Australian. It says he's also 182 centimetres. So
they're being nice, are they?
Yeah.
There you go, 6-time All. You played with Scotty West and Luke Darcy as well?
Yeah.
Wow, Scotty West, he seems like, he's like the Lenny Hayes of the Bulldogs from a St Kilda point of view, isn't he? Like that, they love him.
He's won 7 best and fairest at the West. Like Bont just won his 6 the other day.
West won 7.
So Westy won 7 best and fairest. Yeah, he was just an angry, played and trained and lived with like a chip on his shoulder, just so angry all the time. And that's what was able to get the best out of Westy. But that era, when I got there, it was a lot of players had a lot of individual success, but there was no real team success. And it wasn't that great of a culture to come into because they hadn't had the team success. They really didn't know how to bond and how to gel as a group. It was more like this. There was a group of guys who were 4 or 5 people over in that corner and they were really close. And then there was 5 or 6 other here, these guys here. Yeah, and we didn't really ever get, really super close until probably, 2008, 9 and 10 when we, got on a mini run, but unfortunately didn't play well enough to make any grand finals. 3 prelims in a row.
Oh, I know. Well, just we spoke about some of the superstars. Who was the best underrated player you played with at the Bulldogs? Someone who'd never caught the headlines that they were just as good as maybe some of the names you've mentioned.
Yeah. Oh, there's a couple. I think in the end, Brian Lake got his
flowers.
Yeah. He got it. He got his chockies when he went to the Hawks, but he was so good as a key defender at the Dogs. Ryan Hargrave is one.
Ryan Hargrave,
Shaggy,
yes,
who is you could not meet a more laid back. We called him Shaggy because he looked like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, but he sort of acted a little bit like him as well. Like never saw him get stressed about anything at all. I think he punched Heath Black once, knocked him, and he got 6 weeks for that. And that's the only time I've seen him show any sort of emotion. But he chinned him really nicely. Well, not nicely, very poorly.
Yeah,
actually.
Heath Black could go as well.
Yeah, and he knocked him cold. He knocked him cold. But he was such a good player, and he'd never really get beaten one-on-one. And he was such a good dude as well.
There you go. What changed for you? I'd say that what you achieved in year 4 or 5, was it, from the Brownlow year? Or that,
5,
yeah. So that sort of run as well as a team. Obviously, you had individual success on, but the team was prelims. I remember, did Barry Hall play for you guys in that period as well?
Yeah. So we needed, I think we might have lost 08 without him. Yeah, I reckon then we got in, we thought, well, we need a key forward if we're going to win the flag. And he played pretty well. Had some big years for us, Baz, but he was probably past the peak.
Yeah,
of his powers. Then we got Acker in as well
right.
to try and help us win one. But I don't think we were ever the best team. So there was all St Kilda were probably just marginally better than us as a team. Geelong and then Hawthorn they were always probably just better than us at that stage. So we gave it a decent crack.
Yeah.
And we got really close in 2009. That's the one that stings the most because it was a hard game of footy.
Yeah.
There was a close game of footy. There was a couple of dubious free kicks that were awarded in that game, and we missed a couple of goals from guys that just don't miss. Lindsay Gilby running in from 40, just
Best kick.
He misses. Never. He never. And then Gia had a shot, and I had a couple of balls that I kicked long inside 50 that, missed targets. And we had those opportunities, and that was our year, I think, in 2009 to get to a grand final. But not that I, think about it every day.
Did you shift anything personally from like your individual standpoint, or was it just tenure in the competition that started to like show your talents and showcase your level?
Well, I started actually training harder. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's amazing how that works.
Simple maths.
You train a bit harder, you don't eat as much shit, and don't drink, and then amazing things can happen. So, I was, I used to go back to Adelaide after every off season, join my mates for 3 or 4 weeks, not want to come back and do pre-season. At the end of 2007, I stayed. Hayley was living with me by that stage, and we didn't go back to Adelaide. She's from Adelaide as well,
right.
So we didn't go back. We stayed in Melbourne, and Rowan Smith, he'd already retired by then, and Jono, that dragged me out of bed 3 or 4 mornings, like 5:30 in the morning, and dragged me and forced me to go and train with them.
Wow.
So that was big by them. If they didn't do that, I probably wouldn't have worked as hard in the off season and then wouldn't have been as fit for that 2008 season. So
Gotcha.
I got to credit those guys for dragging my ass out of bed and actually forcing me to train. And then from there, I just felt so good. In the pre-season, I was really fit. I felt really confident. I was starting to get pretty strong. And there is no real secret formula. Like if you work hard and cut out the shit, then you start to become a pretty good player.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, you always had a knack for. I don't know if you ever played naturally forward as a kid or something, but obviously you started there as an AFL player, just let your body and size build. But you were like a goal kicker.
Yeah,
like as much as you were a ball getter in a sense. So where did that like goal kicking instinct come from?
I was just a goal kicking mid. I never really played forward as a kid because I was always in the middle of the ground.
Yeah.
Maybe my nana used to give me $10 a goal.
There you go.
Yeah. And she was like, getting a little bit older now, pensioner at that stage. And I kicked 10 one day.
Oh, Jesus.
And I forced her to cough up too. And she's like on the bare bones of her ass, Nana.
That is bad.
Struggling.
That is bad.
I said, give me 100, Nana. So she couldn't play the pokies that week, I think. She had to miss out. So, mate, I don't know, maybe Nana put it in my head that, there's more to life than, just kicking the ball to the forwards if you can jag a few yourself.
Yeah, bloody oath.
It's a bit of fun. I was never a real over-celebrator of goals, though.
You weren't. You went, I've mentioned Swanee a few times, got to stop, but you and him, it's like, do something.
Yeah. Looking back, and look at the Hawks and the way that they carry on, whether you like it or not, it is entertaining.
Yeah, I love it.
And I'll just like run, have a couple of bounces and kick one from 50.
Yeah.
And I just used to turn around and run back to the middle.
Yeah, yeah. Well, was it the thing back then? Just like to get on with it?
Yeah, well, we were a bit more, well, not down to earth, but I guess you couldn't be seen to be egocentric that as an individual that much.
Yeah.
When I started, you couldn't wear white boots.
Right.
My first year, I got an awesome pair of Pumas, and I had to get a texter and colour them in black.
Oh my god!
Because I wasn't allowed to. Like, I hadn't earned the right to wear white boots.
Oh my god! Yeah. You were still in that generation.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. There you go. That's incredible.
Now they're like, if you wear black boots, you're a lair.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Very, very much so.
Pink boots now.
Yeah, it's gone backwards. It's crazy. Looking back, how many games did you end up playing for the Bulldogs? It was pretty much most of them, right?
220.
220. Did you always assume you'd be a one club player?
Yeah.
I don't actually know what happened, why that changed, but is that something you can share?
Yeah, so I only signed a 2-year deal at the end of 2013, which was going to be 14 and 15, and then that was going to see me out. So of the club, we went through. So Brendan McCarthy was coaching at that stage, and he was in his 3rd year, and we went through the club was imploding.
Right.
Like, we had young kids who didn't want to come to training, and there was parents having meetings with the club about like these kids who are really struggling, and the senior players weren't really seeing eye to eye with the coach at that stage. So, look, something needed to change at the end of 2014, and I foolishly. First of all, I had my exit meeting at the end of the season, and the season didn't finish well for us, and I wasn't playing that well, to be fair. So I had a meeting with Brendan McCartney, Jason McCartney, who was a list manager and the head of fitness, and they sort of, would go through all the stuff. How do you think your year went? I said, pretty average, didn't finish that well. And they said, look, it was poor. we're either going to play you in the VFL next year, or we're thinking about paying out your contract for the year after.
Whoa.
And that was pretty much the end of the exit meeting. Okay. They said, I want you to sit here and tell us the reasons why we should keep you on the list. And I was like, well, I'm not going to fucking do that. I'm not going to sit there
220 games worth
and tell you why I should, stay on the list. So I walked out of there pretty angry, rang my manager and told him the situation, and he said, look, that we have to get you out of there, pretty much. So, so I went to the Brownlow a couple of weeks later, and again had a reasonable night. At the end of the night, I should have done this at the start of the night.
Oh, no.
So at the end of the night, I went to the president. At that stage, was Peter Gordon.
Yeah,
and everyone, all the boys are dragging me away, saying, "Don't do it, don't do it." I said, "I need to tell him what's going on. I need to tell him the whole situation," because he knew sort of bits and pieces, and he knew that things weren't going.
Was he on your side, most of it?
So I sat there for half an hour and pulled my heart out and told him the senior players aren't agreeing. The younger players don't want to go to training, and the younger players are confiding in us about that.
Yeah.
I said, he's not the right guy for the job. Like, we've got to move forward from here. And Peter Gordon said, I'm so glad you've told me all this. I'm going to take it to the board and I'm going to give you a call and we're going to sort this out. Still yet to hear from Peter.
Oh, my God. And then you were on the okay.
Yeah, and then so I was like, a couple of days went by and I said to Haley, this is not good.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in some strife here.
At least you spoke your mind, though.
Well,
I mean, you had the best interest of the footy club, I'd say.
So I had to do it. I had to do it because nothing was going to change in the next couple of years. It probably would have got worse.
It must have been that bad for you, knowing you, to be having that discussion as well, because you wouldn't really insert yourself in that shit, would you?
No, I didn't want to get involved in any of that stuff. And it was horrible.
Yeah.
So after that, it came out eventually that they said, we're going to back the coach in, and they came out and said that publicly. And from there, I was like, I've got to go.
Yeah.
When they said that, Ryan Griffin, the captain of the club, he said, well, I'm out of here. I'm leaving as well.
Oh, really?
Sean Higgins, again, another leader, he was a free agent. He said, I'm gone. Liam Jones left the footy club and got traded. And then those four guys requested trades or left. And then the club said, I think we've got a problem here. Wow. And then they sacked the coach.
Wow. They're kind of, when you say it like that, they're actually, geez, they had a bit of a Bradbury run in 16, but it's amazing considering that time frame that they got there. They got pretty lucky with some of the plays they picked up.
Well, I like to think of it as this way. If I hadn't sat down and said that chat to Peter Gordon, then the Western Bulldogs would never have won the premiership in 2016. So I'm the sole reason why the Dogs won it in 2016. But maybe that's what they needed. Like, maybe they needed to clear out some of the senior guys, get a fresh coach in, and worked his magic, and that's what happened. But look, I would have loved to have stayed at the Dogs.
Yeah.
Like, I signed a 2-year deal to stay there to finish my career. It just, everything went pear-shaped and everything went sour in 2014. And yeah, like, if I'd stayed, would I have been in that 2016 team? Well, maybe I wasn't even in the best 22 at that stage.
Yeah.
Probably not. Probably not the one playing the Essendon.
Well, just on that, so you're still like, I mean, it's hard to not attach you, even though Essendon was like the last we saw of you, in a sense, and you look good in their colours, you suited it. But I still feel like you're a Bulldogs man, though, through and through, aren't you? Like, to an extent,
Well, I played 90% of my career
boy there. Man there,
and, had all my success there. So, but the problem is it ended so bitterly and so like sourly that there was a few years where I just held so much resentment towards what happened and the way that I perceived to be treated. Yeah. And I think, like, they could have said to me, look, we might be looking to trade you. If the president actually called me back and said, listen, this is a situation, thanks for telling me all that, but I just never heard from anyone. Yeah. And then I didn't hear from the coach after that. I didn't hear from the president. I didn't hear from the CEO. I didn't really hear from anyone after I even got traded. So I just thought, I thought, and I wasn't playing that well, whatever, but I thought I was treated disrespectfully. Yeah, I hate that. It's quite common though in sport, isn't it? Like, and that's why I was angry. And people was like, "Why do you not like the Western Bulldogs?" Well, I've got my reasons, but I'm not going to say it publicly. And it was a few years after where it came out. Yeah. What I will say now is, and people say, "Geez, you hate the Western Bulldogs." It was 8 years ago. Yeah, like, if you think I'm going to sit on that and stew on it and be sour and angry about something that happened 8 years ago, like, I couldn't give a rat's now. Like, I love I was at the Western Bulldogs the other day, and I've still got so many great mates at the Western Bulldogs. It was just a few people that were there at the time that I was angry with. Like, people were like, you hate the club. Well, I don't hate the club. Like, imagine if I sat on that for that long.
Nah, no way. Well, yeah, I can't see you doing that. And also, I mean, to play that long for such a footy club, it's hard to lose that connection, isn't it?
Especially with all your mates. You know, I've still got a group chat with 10 of the boys.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a little bit more PG rated now. A couple of them are still involved in AFL clubs, so we've sort of got to keep it pretty clean.
Was there any other suitors outside of Essendon? And if so, why Essendon for you?
Well, I was going to go to Carlton. Carlton wanted me. I was going to get a 3-year deal at the Blues, actually.
Jeez.
On more money than I would have been earning at the Dogs.
Is this like Daisy Thomas kind of year when he's gone?
Mick Malthouse was coaching.
Malthouse,
yeah. So I had a chat with him at the Brownlow as well, actually.
Jeez, but
he wanted to talk to me. Like, he sort of ushed me over, and he said,
that would have been tempting.
Yeah, it was. And it was on pretty good money compared to what I was on at the Dogs. And then I was going to sign at the Kangaroos.
Yep.
It was a 2-year deal at the Kangaroos with a trigger, I think, for a 3rd year as well. I'm like, what is wrong with these clubs?
Beauty.
Yeah. I can take it. I'm like the opposite of Joe Danaher. Just keep on rolling. So I was going to sign with them. I was actually in a meeting with Brad Scott at the Kangaroos halfway through, and he was selling, the club to me, and they were in the premiership window at that stage, or a preliminary final window.
Yeah.
And he sort of said, this is where we'll play you on a wing, a little bit more outside, 2-year deal. And then halfway through the meeting, there's a knock on the door, and his PA or whatever came in and said, Adam, just letting you know that your coach has just been sacked. And Scotty's like, do you still want to be traded?
Oh, my God.
Do you still want to come to our club? And I said, oh, yeah, I think that the ship sailed. So I walked out. I was just about to sign the deal at North, and then the great man Adrian Dodoro called me and said, listen, I know you're about to sign, but just come down to Tullamarine, have a meeting with Hurdy, see how it goes. And as many people do, looked into Hurdy's blue eyes, got lost in his blonde locks, number 5 superstar of the game. And they had the team up where I was going to fit, pitched, that they were a better list than what North Melbourne had at that stage. Gave me the assurance. No, it wasn't an assurance. They did say to me, look, with this ASADA stuff, it's 99% positive. Not 99% positive. Rephrase. We're 99% certain that we're going to all be found not guilty. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm a gambling man.
Yeah.
I'll take the punt. I think Essendon's got a better list. I'll go there. And
top 4 club, like huge club, isn't it?
Yeah. And it was a massive club, and the facilities there were awesome. Got to play on Anzac Day, Dreamtime, all that sort of stuff. But I also thought that they could win a premiership.
Yeah.
And the list was very, very good at that stage.
Can you reel off some of the names back then?
Job was in there. We had Cale Hooker, Michael Hurley, and then some Goddard was there. Yeah. We had some solid guys around him as well. And I thought, well, we're a reasonable chance here. But when I got there in 2015, the players were still provisionally suspended. So they didn't do the full pre-season with us.
Right. So did they play that the first year with you?
Yeah. And in 2015, they were found not guilty a week or 2 before the season started. So then they all came back to train, but they hadn't done a pre-season or anything like that. So they were a little bit sort of behind. They've been training individually. And then round 1, we played Sydney, who played in the grand final the year before. Damn. And we were 42 points up halfway through the 3rd quarter. And then they just ran over the top of us because the boys, the legs went. And we ended up getting beaten by a goal or so. And then we played our first home game, MCG, against Hawthorn, who won the flag, and we beat them in round 2.
Jesus.
So we should have beaten the grand finalists from the year before, and then we beat the premiers. So I thought, well, I've made the right decision. I'm onto a good thing. I've got a nice little role at half forward, sort of rolling up around stoppages. And then the appeal came from WADA a few weeks later, and then the arse fell out of the place.
Well, so you played pretty much every game because there was no one else to pick.
Well, that was 2016.
That was 2016.
Yeah.
So Jesus.
Snapshot of 2015, right? We started like that. I actually did my AC joint in the first game against Sydney. So it was a grade 2, and I played 4 weeks. I had to get it jabbed up, and it was just excruciating. So I played the first 4 weeks there, and then I did my hammy the week before Anzac Day. So I missed 3 weeks, and I missed the Anzac Day game. I came back. I did my other hammy, and then I missed 3 weeks there. I came back against GWS. I knocked out Stephen Cornelio.
Oh, no.
Got 3 weeks down to 2, and then had ankle surgery, missed the rest of the season, and then heard he got sacked after that.
Jesus. So your body was starting to just get cooked
that
at
was
that point.
like 2015. I just went ping, bang.
Yeah, fuck me.
Yeah.
Well, I'll round off with some fun ones, but just to round out Essendon, or probably before I round out Essendon, that whole saga, like, what was that? Was you sort of away from that, just up having front row seats to what was going on? Like,
yeah. And it was, once the appeal came, the players knew that like it was done. And Job, who had been like the front man of all of that, shouldering so much responsibility, he just basically crumbled after that. He couldn't keep going. And then the players were angry at the club, and there was anger towards Hurdy, the coach, and it all sort of just fell apart from there. So, and then he was sacked at the end of 2015, and then the players were all suspended for 12 months.
Yeah.
So I knew that stage 2016 was going to be my last year. All of my teammates have been suspended. My career's done.
Yeah, Jesus, that must have been so strange for you.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
And then they filtered through all these new guys in the preseason. It was just a strange.
How did you guys go 2016? Did you guys punch above your weight, considering?
Yeah, we won 3 games, I think.
Okay,
Yeah, and like with a bunch of misfits,
Yeah.
guys that were playing VFL, or they dragged a couple out of retirement,
Jesus.
like Matty Stokes and James Kelly, dragged them out of retirement to come and play. And these guys who like weren't up to it anymore, a bunch of VFL sort of misfits. And we beat Melbourne. I think we beat Melbourne, Gold Coast, and Carlton throughout the year. And when no one expected us to get close to anyone, really.
Yeah. Well, looking back on Essendon, like just I guess the best part about what was it being there, because you mentioned obviously some of the big games they play in.
Yeah. I played in Anzac Day in 2016. That was a highlight until we started playing.
Yeah.
An American kicked the first goal on Anzac Day. Can you believe that?
Mason Cox.
Really just ruined the day for everyone. But last post, there was 85-odd thousand people there. That was pretty special. Dreamtime was a good one. And just meeting the lads there were awesome. Great bunch of fellas.
Job seems like one of the greatest guys ever.
Yeah, and a really good leader as well. I didn't see the best of him.
Yeah,
unfortunately. So, but a great bunch of guys. And even in 2016, once I got over the devastation that was the end of my career and I'm never going to play in a premiership, it was actually pretty fun because there was no expectations that we could go out there and enjoy ourselves. Like game reviews, we'd get done by 80. And the game reviews would be all positive stuff that we did. So John Worsfold was just trying to get us through at that stage. So it was actually, to finish off, even though we didn't win, I had a bit of fun out there, and it was actually pretty. In terms of AFL, it was actually quite a relaxing environment to be in.
That's a nice way to
it can be
finish.
pretty stressful.
Yeah, that's why part of probably why you live the way you do now.
Yeah.
Because you had so much stress.
I've had enough.
Yeah, you've had enough,
That's
right?
probably why I don't run anymore either.
Yeah, I agree.
And I can't.
A couple of quick ones before we round out with our sort of podcast question. But, Coach, do you love playing for and why?
I love Rocket.
Rocket?
Yeah.
Yeah, geez. Is he...
Oh, he's a psychopath.
Yeah.
He was a
Okay.
psycho.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
But he loved me.
Right.
I was one of his favourites. I think because for the majority of the time that he was there, I got the job done for him most weeks.
Right.
But if you weren't playing well, then he would come for you.
Did you cop that though at all? Because
I copped some
you
good
still got
sprays.
some off him?
I copped some good sprays. But he was always pretty jovial with me. I remember once he brought us in at quarter time and he sprayed just about every single player. And sometimes he'd have lollies and he'd spit them out when I think it was a tactic of his. So you don't want to be in the front row. He was spitting and he'd dropping this and get personal with blokes and massive spray. And I remember one of them, he went at quarter time and he was just the veins are popping out of his head. And then after, everyone just shit himself. And he's like, you go back out there and have the quarter of their lives. Oh, fuck. And then we sort of went to walk off and he grabbed me. He's like, Coons, come here. I'm like, oh, fuck. Walked over and he goes, pretty good spray that one, wasn't it? I was like, what? Are you not angry?
Oh, so he was in control then.
Yeah.
I always thought he'd just fly off the handle. Maybe emotionally couldn't handle being a coach, but he's
he would
calculated.
fly off the handle, yeah. But then all of a sudden he'd have a bit of a joke and a laugh about you. And during the week he was great. He was fun. He'd have a joke and do all sorts of crazy things. But then once we were at training, once we crossed the line to train or to play, that's when he would flip.
There you go. Toughest opponent.
Toughest.
Your era was, I'd argue, one of the best midfield wise.
Yeah, toughest midfield to play against was West Coast. Cousins, Judd, Kerr, Embley. They were offensively, but then Cameron Ling was the best like defensive midfielder.
Sonny said the same thing.
He was just like a big, sweaty pink pig. Like,
there you go.
You just couldn't get away from him. And he wasn't very fast, but he was able to just always position himself in a way where you just couldn't get away from him. And he did a pretty reasonable job at actually getting the footy going back the other way as well. So you sort of had to even worry about him going and getting the ball himself, which was an art.
That's a good one. You watch a lot of footy, and I know you watch it with your family a bit, but who's the one you definitely, most exciting player to watch? Who's the one you turn the TV on for? You enjoy watching get around at the moment? In your eyes?
You know what? I like watching Guinea.
Oh, me too.
Yeah,
I'm pro Guinea too.
Yeah, I think that, if he played in my day, I would have wanted to belt the living suitcase out of him. But I just enjoy, I like that players enjoy themselves now because there's not a lot of fun. And the fun was squeezed out of it for me.
Yeah.
The enjoyment was just squeezed out. From a young age, it was just soul crushing.
So you appreciate what
I
he
appreciate
brings.
the joy.
Yeah.
And watching Joe play footy, I like players who enjoy themselves and have a good time. Because I didn't do a lot of that myself. And that was, again, one of the regrets. Like, I wish I celebrated goals a little bit more, and celebrated some wins a bit more.
Because your personality is that too, isn't it, right?
And I never really used to do it, which is strange.
Yeah, okay. This is left field one, but your style of person and player, coach you'd love to play for now in the current game, who's one that you, from your intel or just from just your feeling that you'd go well under?
I'm not too sure if I play well under any of them, to be honest with you. Who's the most? I think Sam Mitchell is trying to be the most relaxed coach.
Yeah, he seems. Well,
but I don't. I reckon
you don't buy it.
I reckon he's just trying to hold it in a little bit
because he's going to fly off the handle soon.
Yeah, because things are going well, and it's easy to be relaxed when things are going well. But I think if it all went, if things weren't going badly, then I think he might flick that switch. I guess Craig McRae's a bit of a lover, but he's a bit too serious for me. Who's the most jovial coach? I reckon Kenny would be all right.
Kenny Hinkley?
Yeah, I reckon he'd be all right.
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing, I hate how that was a saga, whatever happened where he went. I thought that's great. Well, great TV.
They had a crack. Yeah, he had a crack back. Play on.
Yeah, and both of you were out straight after it.
They both ended up nowhere.
All right, this one, the unlaced listeners will know this is our question that we always ask. We always attest 3 key traits to people who had success in their fields: resilience, drive, or ambition. You kind of need all 3.
Yeah.
But we always get a different answer on which one specifically, I guess, you lent on through your career.
Yeah. Mine was resilience.
Yeah.
Because I played so much of my career injured.
Did you really? Yeah, you were battling a lot there.
Oh, man. I hurt my knee, so I was pretty durable before that.
Right.
Like I played 100 odd in a row, I think, and then I hurt my knee, and then everything just fell apart.
So that was this 08, end of 08.
Yeah. So at the end of 08, when I injured my knee, I came back and I tried to do pre-season, and my knee just didn't feel right. So I ended up having surgery again before the start of the 2009 season, and I think it was 14 days out. So I had surgery, then played 2 weeks later, and then I had surgery again at the end of that season. And then after every year, I just kept having operation after operation to try and get it better. And every time I had surgery, it would just get worse and worse and worse. So I couldn't really train. And when you can't train, it's lonely, and you got to have a bit of resilience to be able to actually get up. And I'll be going to the pool every morning before training, and you swim in your 1,500 metres, and then you get to the club and you're boxing by yourself, and it's just
you hated the game.
It just sucks. I would be lucky to train 1 day a week for the last 8 years of my career.
Wow, I don't know if many people would have known that besides the people around you. But
they would have if they saw me play towards the back end.
Hey, mate, I'm finally glad we got you on the pod. Definitely, you're a superstar. Delivered. Yeah, thank you to Haley as well for making it happen. Shout out to the Cooney family, but most of all, mate, thank you for coming on the show.
No, it's been all right. It's been all right. Thanks for having me on, man.
There we go. Love you all, guys. We'll see you next week.